I am Colombian. We get excited. My country is covered in coffee.
The spicy Latina. For nearly a century now, she's been the sultry face of Latina representation.
And for the men, there was a new sexy Latina nurse. Nurse Martinez.
The trope of portraying Latin women as exotic and hot-blooded, passionate in both love and in war, arose before the advent of cinema. And it stubbornly persisted on screen well into the 21st century, creating a lasting impression of Latina women as volatile, combative, and hypersexual that has bled over into real-world attitudes. But who is she really? The spicy Latina is, first and foremost, a fantasy, a blend of the sinister and the sensual.
My body's talking to me, says time for danger.
She is beautiful and exotic, usually seen with tan skin, brunette hair, and pouty lips. Her body is voluptuous and usually on full display.
And has she got,
There's a good chance she'll appear in some state of undress, or at least in something tight and revealing.
I can't afford any distractions.
She always speaks her mind. She has no filter and is often loud.
Jay, don't go. Jay! Jay! Jay!
The spicy Latina has a temper that's barely under control, and she's often violent and destructive when she's angry.
and you had a racer, and you were drunk with a racer and raging.
There's a high likelihood that she will steal your man because one is never enough for her and her power over them is too strong.
I do know that a woman never steals another woman's husband. They usually go willingly.
Well, sounds like you have a lot of experience in that area.
Even as we've progressed towards more enlightened, more diverse characters in general, the spicy Latina has remained a stock Hollywood figure, a go-to source for laughter and lust in everything from action movies to sitcoms.
Are you watching Gloria in my sunglasses?
Is she moving in slow motion, or is my brain doing that?
Here's our take on where these fiery Latinas came from, the misconceptions they've created, and why they should likely be extinguished.
They call me Cha-Cha, because I'm the best dancer at St. Bernadette's.
With the worst reputation.
Thank you to Skillshare for sponsoring today's video. Skillshare is an online learning community where millions of people come together to take classes that fuel their creative journey. The first 1,000 people to use the link in our description will get a free trial of Skillshare Premium membership. So become a member today and start exploring your creativity for less than $10 a month. Hey everyone, we're so excited to announce that The Take is launching a brand new merch line. It's a celebration of everything that makes The Take unique, a love of movies and TV, an appreciation of smart analysis and original ideas, and a desire to start real dialogue with the question, what's your take? Your support of this channel shows that thoughtful, positive conversations can be had in this complex, messy world. So thank you for watching, and check out our limited edition designs available on the merch shelf now before they're gone. The classic stereotype of the lusty, dark-haired, olive-skinned woman can be found in George Bizet's 19th century opera, Carmen, which depicts an upstanding soldier whose life is upended by a fiery gypsy who inflames his passions, toys with his emotions, and even drives him to murder. Carmen is wild and free, and ultimately, she is treacherous. It's a characterization that has dogged Latin women throughout history. In the days of vaudeville and dance halls, Latina performers were often billed as spicy señoritas and hot tamales, implying that loving them was painful yet pleasurable, like eating a chili pepper. In the earliest days of cinema, all Latinx characters were seen as inherently dangerous. While the men were usually Mexican greasers, the women were seductive cantina girls. Immoral, lustful, and sexually aggressive, existing as an object of forbidden temptation for white American cowboys and male moviegoers alike.
He sounds enchanting. Enchanting? Bewildering, bewitching, intoxicating, devastating.
Like Carmen, they were exciting but untrustworthy. Falling in love with them was usually a mistake.
My fiancé.
Your fiancé? This is going to be just too bad. For one of us.
Hollywood's perception of Latinx people changed with Rudolph Valentino. the silent film star who introduced the idea of the Latin lover, even though Valentino himself was Italian. Valentino was dark and handsome, albeit no less dangerous, considering his ability to seduce and conquer women, luring them into often doomed affairs. Valentino's performances in films like The Sheik and Blood and Sand made him one of Hollywood's earliest sex symbols, and created a craze for other so-called hot-blooded Latins. Among them was Dolores del Rio, who was brought to America with the explicit aim to make her a female Valentino. Although projecting a greater sense of refinement than those early cantina girls, Del Rio still largely played beautiful, exotic dancers and singers who seduced the white men, who usually had to liberate her from her Latin fiancé.
Don't tell me anything so 18th century as a family arrangement could...
We do things so in my country.
And I'm going to institute some radical changes in your country.
While Del Rio became the first Mexican woman to achieve Hollywood stardom, it was her rival, Lube Vélez, who truly cemented how they would be portrayed. Playing exotic, hot-tempered women on screen, Vélez earned a reputation for being just as volatile off it. She became a tabloid staple for getting into fistfights with other actresses and for punching, stabbing, and even shooting at her lovers Gary Cooper and Johnny Weissmuller. The press dubbed her the Mexican Hurricane, and studios soon took advantage of her persona with movies like Hot Pepper and Strictly Dynamite that capitalized on her tempestuous persona. In her popular series of Mexican Spitfire films, Vélez portrayed Carmelita Lindsay, a hot-headed Mexican singer who marries an American businessman and returns home with him.
Everything we do, every place we go, it's always business, business, business. You never do anything to please me.
Carmelita proves to be a fiery troublemaker, speaking in fractured English while having fiery emotional outbursts in Spanish, bringing color and excitement to the life of her white American spouse.
Carmelita, what are you doing?
Why don't you ask yourself some questions like that, eh? Ya lo sabía que me andaba haciendo tonta con la
Carmelita, now wait.
It's a dynamic that would echo through decades of on-screen romances.
Why can't we mix a couple of Colombian traditions in?
Like what?
Like fireworks.
In 1933, President Franklin Roosevelt adopted the Good Neighbor policy, an accord towards Latin America that spurred the film industry to hire more Latin Americans and to create films that portrayed them more positively than those early greaser caricatures. But it ended up trading one stereotype for another. The Latina temptress quickly became a fixture of Golden Age Hollywood, with Vélez's Mexican Spitfire quickly answered by the Cuban Fireball, Estelita Rodriguez, the Caribbean Cyclone, Maria Montez, and the Brazilian bombshell Carmen Miranda. Although the Latin craze ruled the 1940s, it began to wane toward the 1950s. Latin films and portrayals descended into parody.
Mama, 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 yo quiero. Mama, yo quiero. Mama, yo quiero, mama.
Since these Latin actresses had few other roles to play besides exotic beauties, they found themselves increasingly marginalized. Many of them descended into alcoholism and drug abuse. Rodriguez, Montez, and Miranda all died tragically young. Vélez's death at age 36 was ruled a suicide, and as noted in Daniel Bernardi and Michael Green's book, Race in American Film, the legend around it underscored her perceived impulsiveness and easy sexuality, which in turn gave credence to the stereotypical image of Latinas being loose, impulsive, and self-destructive.
You're under arrest.
Oh, dear me, don't tell me why.
You're too hot.
But as the authors note, this ignores the way Hollywood treated all of these Latina actresses as commodities to be discarded once they were no longer useful. With their worth so intrinsically tied to being exotic sex objects, their stars burned brightly but briefly. With Rita Moreno's turn in 1961's West Side Story, a new spin on the spicy Latina emerged.
We won't bite you till we know you better.
Moreno's Anita is scrappy and headstrong, an independent woman who speaks her mind and stands up to her man.
I think I go back to San Juan.
I know a boat you can get on.
Her role earned widespread accolades and even an Oscar for Best Supporting Actress. But as Moreno herself noted, it gave her the confidence to turn down more stereotypical Latina roles, which led to a 7-year lull in her career.
I had played the ultimate Hispanic character, and it's all I was offered after the movie, which is all I had been offered before the movie.
Anita offered a version of the spicy Latina who was defined by her sharp tongue rather than her sexuality.
If one of you was lying in the street, bleeding, I'd walk by, and spit on you.
and who refused to be pinned down by her race.
I'm an American girl now. I don't wait.
But throughout the 60s and 70s, the spicy Latina continued to be a foreign stereotype, a figure of lust, or comedy, or both.
Ay, mama! Juan! 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 It is time you learn to trust me. Trust you? Juan! Juan! Juan!
In the 1980s, another facet of the spicy Latina emerged, the tough Latin woman whose hot-blooded temper can turn downright deadly.
I only need to know one thing. Where they are. Anytime, anywhere.
Although she was played by the Jewish actress Jeanette Goldstein, Vasquez in 1984's Aliens became the archetypal tough Latina, fearless and smart-assed, and a bit of a tomboy.
Have you ever been mistaken for a man?
No. Have you?
The tough Latin woman was increasingly called upon to play cops, soldiers, and assassins, their implicit spiciness making them all the more fearsome.
You try that cowboy shit with me, you can kiss this goodbye.
But even in positions of power and authority, their backstories were every bit as reductive. The spicy Latina usually hailed from a rough neighborhood, an impoverished working-class background that toughened her up, forcing her to learn how to defend herself. Still, this didn't make her any less sexy. In fact, it made her even more of a prize, her fiery nature just waiting to be tamed by an alpha man.
You got a death wish or something?
That's what it takes.
With the spicy Latina, there is always an element of explosiveness, but it's usually about keeping her contained. The spicy Latina is often described by other characters as uninhibited. Liberated from the structures of polite white society, she moves, acts, and speaks freely.
You put that on my house! I kill what you love!
We often see her using her uninhibited tongue to inspire or invigorate others, pushing them to let go, shape up, and stick up for themselves with the kind of passion only they can muster.
Forget, regret, all life is yours to miss.
In High Noon, it's Helen Ramirez, the half-Mexican saloon owner played by Katie Jurado, who convinces the timid Quaker Amy to go take up arms and stand by Gary Cooper's Marshall in his standoff with a criminal gang.
If King was my man, I never leave him like this. I'd get a gun. I'd fight.
Helen is the rare Mexican woman in a Western who's more than just a temptress. She's a strong, complex character who romances several men on her own terms, including the town deputy, yet she remains fiercely independent.
It takes more than big broad shoulders to make a man, Harvey.
Still, her role is largely to act as the conscience to another character, something the spicy Latina is frequently called upon to do.
What kind of woman are you? How can you leave him like this?
Rosie Perez as Tina in Do the Right Thing is another archetypal spicy Latina. Sexy, sassy, and quick to insult her boyfriend Mookie.
Be a man.
I am a man,
Then act like a man.
As with the many spicy Latinas who came before her, the film largely reduces Tina to her body, which is ogled in the opening credits, and again in a scene where director Spike Lee rubs Perez's breasts with an ice cube. But she's also a mouth, there to set Mookie on his path one verbal jab at a time.
You need to get a life, Mookie, alright? Because the one you got, baby, is not working, okay?
When she's not setting people straight, the spicy Latina is also helping them escape. Her beguiling figure, colorful personality, and zeal for living life out loud is portrayed as just the thing to shake up a white man's bland, vanilla life.
Did you decorate it yourself?
Yes, Lainey, I realize it is a little dull.
No, you got that cozy little institutional thing going on.
Not after I spice it up.
The trope hasn't changed much since Lupe Velez's Mexican Spitfire. The white man who marries the spicy Latina sees his boring world upended, transformed into something freer and more fun. In 1997's Fools Rush In, Matthew Perry's straight-laced architect Alex falls for the free-spirited artist Isabel, played by Salma Hayek, impulsively marrying her after a one-night stand leaves her pregnant. Isabel teaches Alex about salsa music and how to season his food, while her family gets him drunk on tequila.
And now I'm with you, and I don't know what happened, but somewhere between the tuna melt and your aunt's tamales.
Ultimately, the film sees Alex abandoning his stifling career just to be with her.
You are everything I never knew I always wanted.
Yet while his love for Isabel may be sincere, it's clear that both the film and Alex compartmentalize her.
Why are you afraid of me? Why do you alienate me from your life?
I don't know.
He hides her from his parents, even allowing them to think she's his housekeeper.
She is wonderful. Of course, there must be a lot of good help around here. I mean, just being so close to Mexico.
It's a relationship that's built on Alex exoticizing her rather than fully embracing her as a person. Fools Rush In is an example of what Vice writer Alex Zaragoza calls the life-changing Latina bombshell trope. She is fiery and sexy and, for some reason, loves boring white guys. And she stands in contrast to a more suitable white partner, as proof that the more difficult road leads to greater happiness and seeing the world with new eyes.
Are you kidding? They are great. I had no idea that families actually talked at dinner.
The life-changing Latina can also be found in 2002's Made in Manhattan, where a white politician, played by Ralph Fiennes, falls for Jennifer Lopez's hotel maid, Marissa. Marissa isn't spicy per se, especially compared to her coworker, Stephanie.
It's complicated. What kind of answer is that? Honest. The only thing complicated between me and him would be unhooking my bra strap.
But Marissa represents another common aspect of the spicy Latina trope, which finds white male characters gushing about how real the Latina is compared to the fake, usually white women in his life.
Who the hell is she?
I'll tell you who she isn't. She isn't like anyone I've ever met before.
That's for sure.
And she isn't a phony.
Baz Vega's Flor in 2004's Spanglish likewise isn't the loud, lusty stereotype of the spicy Latina. She's a hardworking, self-sacrificing immigrant housekeeper who's just trying to provide for her daughter.
There's some mistakes. You cannot risk when you have children.
But her white boss, played by Adam Sandler, finds himself falling for her nevertheless, not just for her obvious beauty,
Would you get out of the damn wind? Sit down.
but because she represents the opposite of his cold, deceitful wife.
Are you really that much nicer than me?
You don't set the bar real high.
In both cases, the Latina woman is a projection of the white man's desires. In these films, the Latina is inherently subjugated by her profession, still relying on the white man to elevate and rescue them, just like all those irresistible Latin singers and dancers from decades earlier. Or, like the housekeepers in Lifetime's Devious Maids, they scheme to use their spiciness to rise above their station.
We're maids, and we're not messing around.
Writing for Refinery 29, Cecily Bowen suggests that this reflects how we see these women in real life. They are most useful when they are invisible, and if maids aren't acquiescing to the desires and ambitions of those who do have to interact with them, they're villainized. The spicy Latina is defined by the role she plays in other characters' lives, and it's often the only role she's given.
Half the time I'm some stereotype that they're making fun of. The other half of the time I'm just invisible. You know what? Maybe that's the point. The first time you saw me, I was cleaning your bathroom floor, only you didn't see me.
The persistence of the spicy Latina trope dovetails with an overall lack of Latinx representation on screen. A study of the 100 top grossing films from 2007 to 2018 found that a mere 3% featured Latinos in lead or co-lead roles, and at least 5% of those went to Cameron Diaz alone. Of the women in that group, 35.5% of those characters were found to be hypersexualized. But of course, you don't need statistics to tell you that. In movies and on TV, in music, in commercials, even while reporting the weather, the Latina has long been objectified and fetishized, her worth reduced to her sex appeal.
Our academy is more diverse than ever before, both in front of and behind the camera, resulting in a greater diversity of storytelling.
For all of its negative connotations, this has opened some doors. Jennifer Lopez built her career on being sexy, and she's leveraged it into a wildly successful empire that encompasses acting, music, fashion, and political activism. Still, that hasn't stopped her from being reduced to a spicy Latina in articles and interviews, or critics from deriding her Super Bowl halftime show with Colombian singer Shakira as porn. Salma Hayek has faced similarly demeaning attitudes, telling the London Times in 1999, "I should be flattered when people say I'm sexy or beautiful, but it would make me even happier if people could see me beyond sexy because there is a lot more to me than that." She went on to prove it by launching a career as a director and producer, including developing the TV series Ugly Betty, which challenged those sexy Latina stereotypes, even as it occasionally leaned into them.
Isn't this place hot?
Oh, yeah.
Yet on screen, she's still often reduced to playing the exotic Latina bombshell.
Máquina de octava que no
no sirvió para nada. Se atora y se atora y se atora.
That's so sexy. What do you say?
Oh, I think that she said Milan.
This limiting representation of the spicy Latina has real-world repercussions, as the hypersexualization of Latina women by the media directly influences how they see themselves.
I wanna put on a tight skirt and flirt with a stranger.
And the sexualization of Latinas can lead to internalized ideas about the need to dress in revealing clothing and focus on their appearance, which is often associated with anxiety and reduced academic performance in young women. It also contributes negatively to issues with body image. Thanks to the media's emphasis on their figures, Latina women have become especially vulnerable to eating disorders and body dissatisfaction.
The two of you should lose weight. You would look beautiful without all that fat.
The trope has also fostered the widespread sexual harassment of Latinas in the workplace. As Waleska Suero documented in the Chicano Law Review, the stereotype of the hypersexual Latina pushes the boundary of what constitutes offensive remarks or behavior. And as a result, 77% of Latina women have said that workplace sexual harassment is a serious problem, prevalent especially among immigrants who are viewed as weak or vulnerable and who fear being deported if they report the crime. Latinas already make 67 cents to every white man's dollar, regardless of education and experience. Being stereotyped as volatile or a spicy, sexy temptation only reduces their mobility and leaves them lagging further behind. Overall, it perpetuates a general lack of respect towards Latinas.
And in front of reporters, Representative Yoho called me, and I quote, a bitch.
It reduces them to something to be objectified, consumed, and conquered. Arguably, the biggest problem with the spicy Latina, as with most stereotypes, is that it ignores the many other shades of Latinx identity. Latinx people represent a wide variety of cultures and colors that can't be reduced to a single sassy, heterosexual bombshell.
You'll need your rest. We're going again in 15.
In recent years, we've seen the emergence of more nuanced, complex Latinas, from Parks and Recreation's decidedly unspicy April Ludgate.
My mom's Puerto Rican. That's why I'm so lively and colorful.
To Crazy Ex-Girlfriend's weird, messy Valencia.
If peeing together is fun, I can't wait for the next activities.
Brooklyn Nine-Nine has given us both the neurotic, sensible Amy Santiago and Rosa Diaz, who is as thoughtful as she is tough and whose bisexuality is just part of who she is.
I'm bisexual, and I don't care what you think about it.
These are examples of characters whose Latin identity isn't completely snuffed out, yet it doesn't entirely engulf them either. They have spark and they have passion, but that's just one of their many flavors.
You actually look like your photo.
Oh, well, which one? Calendar, about me, FAQs, upcoming events, past events, or contact me.
If you're new here, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell to be notified about all our new videos. This video is brought to you by Skillshare, an online learning community that offers affordable classes designed to fit your schedule and skill level. With Skillshare, you can discover creative, entertaining workshops to help you break up the monotony of a day spent inside. One Skillshare original you can check out right now is Helen Levy's class on how to create a beautiful ceramic mug, from selecting the clay, to throwing it on the wheel, to glazing the final piece. Right now, Skillshare is offering our viewers a free trial of Skillshare Premium membership, but that's only if you're one of the first 1,000 people to click the link in the description below. So join today and jumpstart your creative journey.